Hey there. It is time for our next installment of ABCs of Conscious Capitalism. And today we're going to do a double letter day because yesterday got away from me and we did not get into letter E. So today we are going to be looking at E and F, and we're going to jump right in. So for those who are new to this conversation or missed the first letters of the alphabet, I encourage you to go back on my page where you have found this and catch up. I especially go into a deeper dive of what is conscious capitalism, why is that important on letters A and B. You'll also find some of that information in the description of this video. But because I want to keep these short and sweet and get the conversations going and the brain waves flowing, we're going to jump right in. This is equity and equality. And as all the letters start with, we do have a quote at the top that I'm going to read. And it says, fairness does not mean everyone gets the same. Fairness means everyone gets what they need. I'm curious if you're catching this now. Tell me what you think about that in the comments. And that is a quote from Rio, oh, I'm going to mispronounce his last name. I am so sorry. Rio Don, an American author. I'll make sure to put that information somewhere written because sometimes I just don't pronounce names very well. So sorry, Rick. But let's get into equality and equity. As a reminder, this is written to be able to have simple conversations with kids, but I want it to also be a simple conversation no matter how old you are. So, equality and equity. Have you ever said, that's not fair, especially when something was given to, especially when someone was giving something that you were not? There we go. That's what it says. Have you ever said, that's not fair, especially when someone was given something that you were not? Today, I want us to think about how much we really understand the word fair. Usually, when we talk about fairness, we talk about things being equal. If you get an ice cream cone as a treat, I should get one too. But everything being equal is not always fair either. I think this is a hard one for all humans, not just kids. Let's take a look at the difference between equality and equity. Equality means everyone is given the same thing. Equity means everyone is given the same access to the same thing. So if everyone gets to stand at the fence to watch a baseball game, that's equality. If the fence is tall, it might make it difficult for the smaller people to see the game. But if the smaller people had a box to stand on, that would help them see the game just like the taller people who can also see while standing on their own 2 feet. This is equity. So really, equality is only truly created by equity. If we want equality to be the end goal, then equity is the way to get there. Conscious capitalists believe in equity. They do everything they can to make their companies fair so everyone has what they need to thrive. So I know when we think about this idea of the big scary corporations or the heartless corporations, capitalists, sometimes we don't have this vision of people trying to create equity and making sure everyone can thrive and have what they need. But that is what conscious capitalism is about. And then, as always, I will show you this handy dandy picture illustration. I'm trying to get it to come in focus. Come on, camera. You would think by this day I'd be able to, in the alphabet, I'd be able to do this better. Haha. But that is the photo that comes, or the picture, not photo, illustration. There we go. Look at the picture. It says, the 2 customers at the hot dog cart have equal access to the toppings for their hot dogs. But access does not mean it is equitable. What would it take for their access to be fair? The kids on the sidewalk have equal access to the game, but it is not equitable. What do you think would make it fair? Do you think playing at a picnic table would be more equitable? Draw your ideas on the page so everyone is able to have a nice day. So what we see here is this boy reaching for the condiments, but he's obviously too short to get to them. And then we also have our friend here who is in a wheelchair and can't reach the game. And I'm holding it in such a way that people cannot see. There we go. And so thinking about how do we create those situations where it is equitable and actually accessible to everyone, right? So we're going to continue on to letter F, because it's story time with CQ, letters E and F, free enterprise and free markets. We're going to start with the quote at the top, just like always. Free enterprises have done more to lift people out of poverty than any other system. That's because people are free to say what they need and want, and other people are able to serve them to meet those needs and desires. Alexander McCoben, CEO of Conscious Capitalism. Again, Alexander, if I have mispronounced your last name, deepest apologies. So let's get into free enterprise and free markets, because that is letter F for our conscious capitalism. Don't you love the word free? Free ice cream, free time at school or work, or the weekend. Free, those I made up. Free skateboards, we can dream, right? Well, if you live in a capitalist nation, you're free to start a business and free to charge whatever you want. You want to sell hamburgers for $1.50 or futuristic cars for $200,000? As long as you're not hurting anyone, the government doesn't tell you what to do. This also means that you have the ability to create something that matters to you without having to jump through a million hoops. Pretty cool, right? I understand that we could stop and unpack how our society is not perfect at that and how this might be a little bit of simplification. But again, to make the idea of a free market and free enterprise accessible for this conversation, we're simplifying, right? Free market refers to a system where businesses get to choose what to sell and how much to charge. Free enterprise means you get to start a business without the government telling you no. Conscious capitalists believe in both free markets and free enterprise. If you want to follow in their footsteps, you're the one who has the freedom to choose what kind of business you want to run. Your mom may tell you you have to clean your room, and your dad may tell you you can't stay out past your curfew, but the government can't tell you what kind of business to run or how to run your company. That's a relief, right? So again, I realize that can be a bit simplistic, and we live in a complex society where we have to balance governmental regulation with free market and free enterprise. And so it doesn't quite work so smoothly and simply in our culture and society, but it gives us the idea that the government is not to be telling us no about the businesses that we're starting, and that we can set it up to sell and charge whatever we want. And I think that's a double edge. Sometimes we say, stay out of my business, government. And then sometimes we're the same people who go, why isn't anybody controlling any of this? So something to also discuss and debate at some point. Feel free to have that conversation in the comments. I'm interested to hear what you have to say about that. We're going to look at our picture here. And we have use your freedom to sell in a free market system. Take a look at everything on the page and decide what you want to charge for each item. Oh, that's what all the price tags that don't have any numbers are about. So what's really interesting about this too is that we have the ability to set value, or not set value, but respond to value, right? So one of the things that I'm going to do just a little bit of commentary right now around setting prices is it depends on what the value is to that particular audience in that particular moment, right? So we may bulk at paying, $5 for a bottle of water, but if we're at a baseball stadium, Now I realize we may not have choices because we're not allowed to bring other items in, but we're usually more accepting of the fact that it might be $5. We may be at a high-end restaurant and they're selling us, bottled water, sparkling or still, and people are willing to pay more for it. There are places where I know here in Chicago, it gets very hot, and sometimes there are impromptu sidewalk vendors who have ice cold water for sale, and you can definitely bet that there are people out there willing to pay for that cold water in times that they would normally not just be shelling out to a sidewalk vendor, a pop-up sidewalk vendor, but the need and the environment and all of that feeds into how we set our prices. But today was letters E and F as we explored equity and equality. And I'm curious to start a conversation about how have you seen those two different ideas showing up in business, and how are we creating true equity? And then also free enterprise and free markets. And then tomorrow is letter G, and G stands for Go Green. So I will see you back as we go on our journey of conscious capitalism ABCs. And I'm interested to keep this conversation going. Have a beautiful night. Bye-bye.